Welcome to HFY Galactic Stories, original science fiction tales, where humans face impossible odds, and the galaxy pays the price for its ignorance. Listen carefully. This is where legends are born. The Discovery. The Zelnari Empire was in charge of the Outer Veil sector, for a long time 3,000 cycles. The Zelnari Empire had these cool ships that were made of crystal and they moved through space in a smooth way like water flowing. The Zelnari Empire ships were very elegant and precise. The Zelnari Empire weapons were also very good, they could hit their target every time. When the Zelnari Empire went to war, it did not last long, they would win quickly. Commander Thane worked for the Zelnari Empire for 200 cycles, which is a long time. In all the time that Commander Thane worked for the Zelnari Empire, he never saw anything that really surprised him. That was about to change for Commander Thane and the Zelnari Empire. The sensor alert came during the watch when Thane was going over supply lists in his room on the Sovereign Light. His second officer Vree got in touch with him away. "Commander, we found a ship drifting in Sector 794, Vree said. "We do not know what kind of ship it is." This got Thane's attention a bit. You do not see ships very often. The Zelnari have made a list of every species that can travel through space within 50 years. Thane told Vree to show him the readings. A hologram appeared in front of him. Thane leaned forward to take a closer look at the sensor readings from the Sovereign Light. The sensor readings were from the ship in Sector 794. The Zelnari ship was really different from anything the Zelnari had in their databases. It was small, had lots of sharp edges. The Zelnari ship was 200 meters long. The outside of the Zelnari ship was made from layers of metal. This is a way of building that the Zelnari stopped using a time ago. The Zelnari started using materials that can withstand a lot of energy instead. The vessel was really beat up. You could see burn marks over it. Some parts of the ship looked like they had been ripped open and then fixed from the inside. Even with all the damage, the main structure of the Earth Defense Force ship was still okay. The Earth Defense Force ship had not fallen apart. The Earth Defense Force ship had not caved in. The Earth Defense Force ship had made it through. Where did the Earth Defense Force ship come from? Thane asked. Vree was not sure what to say. The writing on the Earth Defense Force ship was in a language we did not know. Our computers had figured out one phrase. Earth Defense Force Frigate Class, Valiant Dawn. Thane felt his dorsal fins go flat against his neck because he was really surprised. Earth was the name of this place. He had seen Earth in reports for the 70 cycles. It is a planet in a faraway part of the galaxy, where a new species lives. These people have only just figured out how to travel in light. The Zelnari had been keeping an eye on Earth. How they were expanding into space, but they were not really interested in talking to the people of Earth directly. The Zelnari thought Earth was not important enough for them to bother with. Earth and its people were something for the Zelnari to casually observe. Now one of their ships was just floating there in Zelnari space. Thane felt really uneasy about it. He told his people to bring the Sovereign Light next to the ship. He wanted a team to get ready to check out the ship. Thane wanted to know everything about this ship. The Sovereign Light moved closer to the ship, looking really sleek as it did. As they got nearer, Thane took a look at the broken ship through the window. The ship was in worse shape than they had first thought. Big parts of the outside of the ship had been completely destroyed. There were holes over the surface from things hitting it. The human ship had these things sticking out that could have been guns, all bent and black. The ship was still alive. This really bothered Thane. A Zelnari ship with the kind of damage would have been completely destroyed. The people on it would have gotten out. Died. This human ship took a beating that should have totally wrecked it, and somehow it stayed in one piece. The human ship had taken a lot of damage. It was still flying, which was really strange. Thane thought about the ship and how it was still working. "Commander," Vree said, "our scans do not find any people on the ship. We do see that some systems still have power. It looks like the emergency systems are still working. This is very interesting. Choose the scientists we have. We will go onto the ship now." The team that was going to board the ship had 8 Zelnari on it. Each of them was wearing a suit that had a protective shield around it. They went to the ship in a special pod and they connected to the ship at a door that looked like it was used for repairs. Thane was the one to step on the metal of the alien ship. The thing felt really different under him. It was heavier and thicker. The sensors in his suit were having a time figuring out what it was made of. "This is not one kind of metal," said Corinne, the person who knew a lot about materials. "This thing has layers," Corinne said. "It has iron and carbon and tungsten and kinds of ceramics all stuck together." "Commander, this thing is like armor," Corinne said. "It is kinds of armor all layered on top of each other. The armor is made up of layers of different materials." Corinne was still looking at the armor. He said it was a very strong armor. Thane took a look at the hull section. The Zelnari usually used energy shields to protect themselves. They thought physical armor was old-fashioned and not very good. The ship was covered in it. Thane wondered why they would need thick armor. Vree said maybe their shields are not strong enough. Thane said maybe that is true. He had a feeling there was more to it than just their technology not being good enough. The Zelnari ship had airlock controls. They were able to make them work. The human systems work in a way to the Zelnari technology. This makes me think that the people who made these systems learned some of the basic things about engineering as the Zelnari did. The outer door creaked open. It showed us a room on the other side. Corinne said that the air inside is okay to breathe. It has the mix of nitrogen and oxygen. The gravity systems are not working. The emergency seals have kept the air from escaping. They walked into the ship and the door inside started to open. The emergency lights turned on. Everything was filled with a pale blue light. Thane thought the ship was really crowded. The hallways were small. Had a lot of equipment in them. There were pipes and cables over the place. You could see everything. Get to it easily, which made sense because it was made to be fixed quickly. They kept moving through the ship. Wrote down what they saw. The walls had lots of labels and instructions written in a language that humans could read. There were arrows on the walls that pointed to parts of the ship. The ship had a lot of equipment. The corridors were narrow. Thane saw the script on the walls and it was clear what everything was for. The emergency equipment was put away in compartments that were easy to find. You could tell that someone had thought this through and made sure everything was just right. Then Vree said, "Look at this from up." Thane went to stand with her in front of a heavy door. This door was closing off a part of the ship that was damaged. The door was really something. It was made of metal and it was very thick. At least 20 centimeters. It also had a lot of locks on it. There was a window in the door and through it they could see the corridor on the other side. The corridor was open to space because the ship's hull was broken. Vree and Thane were looking at the emergency equipment and the door. You could see that the Vree and Thane were on the same ship. The ship had a damaged section. The door was keeping it closed off. The people who built this ship sealed off the parts that were damaged. Thane noticed. They did something called compartmentalization. This means that if one part of the ship gets hurt they close it off and the rest of the ship keeps working. Corinne was looking at how the door was made. "Commander, these seals are made to keep the air in even if there is no air outside the ship." "Look at this," she said. She was pointing to the bars that went around the door frame. "These doors are made to stay shut even if the ship gets a hole in it." The people who built this ship thought that something bad could happen to it. They planned for something like that to happen. The team kept looking around the ship. They found more things that showed the same way of thinking. They had systems everywhere on the ship. The ship had systems everywhere. There are lots of power lines that go to each part of the ship. They have emergency supplies over the place. The medical stations are easy to find because they are over the ship too. Every hallway has a sign that says what to do in case of an emergency. Every room has equipment on the wall that helps you breathe. The crew quarters are in the part of the ship. The rooms are really small. They have everything you need. Each room has a bed, some storage space, and a computer. The rooms are tiny compared to what the Zelnari people were used to, but the ship was built for beings that are smaller. The Zelnari people think the spaces are cramped because the ship was not built for them. The crew quarters have everything the crew needs. The Zelnari people would probably find it hard to move around in the small rooms. Personal things were over the place. There were pictures of people in groups. The people in the pictures looked really weird with faces and not many senses. They looked like they could get hurt easily compared to the Zelnari with their armor. These weak people had built a really strong ship. "Where are the people who worked on the ship?" one of the scientists asked. "If there was a fight, where are the dead people?" That is a question too. They did not find any bodies, no sign of what happened to the people who worked on the ship. The humans who built this ship were really good at it. Where are the humans now? The ship felt empty and quiet, like everybody just got up and left. They made their way to the bridge by going through a more locked areas. The room where the captain sits is round with lots of control panels around the big chair in the middle. There are screens over the walls, but most of them are not working, while some still show some basic information about the ship. Thane went to the computer and started trying to get into its memory. The computer was working a bit using backup power. After a while Thane was able to get some records from the ship's logs. "This ship was supposed to watch over this area," he said. "There are notes about a fight with what they call unknown people. The fight went on for 5 hours. 5 hours, Vree said, not believing it. No fight goes on for 5 hours. The ship got badly hurt in places." Thane kept reading. "A lot of people got hurt. 43% of the people on the ship. They still kept fighting." The team got very quiet. If a Zelnari ship had that many people hurt, 43%. it would mean they lost the fight for sure. It would have been better for them to give up a way to save the rest of the crew. These people had already lost a lot of their friends and they just kept on fighting. Commander Corinne was called over by one of his team members who said she had found something. She said to Commander Corinne, "I have found something, you really need to see this now." Thane went over to where she was standing at a computer station. She was looking at the ship's details and what Thane saw on that screen really scared him. The Valiant Dawn is a training frigate, that is what the data says. This ship is not meant for the lines of battle, Commander. The Valiant Dawn is used to teach people how to fight. It is a ship that helps the crews learn the basics of combat. If the Valiant Dawn is this tough and was made for training, then the Valiant Dawn was made to take a lot of damage. What do the real warships of the Dawn look like? The Valiant Dawn is a training ship. What about the ships that are actually meant for war? What can those ships do? We need to look at everything the Valiant Dawn has, Thane said in a voice. We need to look at the systems of the Valiant Dawn, the weapons of the Dawn, and the design of the Valiant Dawn. The Empire needs to know what we have discovered here. Is that really necessary? Vree asked. The Empire is dealing with a species, the humans. They are still new to all of this. Do they really pose a threat to the Empire? Vree wondered. Thane looked around the bridge of the ship. He saw the armor that protected them. He saw the systems that were in place in case something went wrong. He saw the emergency equipment that was stored near every station so it could be reached quickly. Thane thought about the crew of the ship. The crew had lost 43% of its people. They were still fighting after 5 hours. The Empire was facing a species, the humans, who could fight like that. He thought about humans being called weak in these reports. They are able to build ships that can take a lot of damage. No ship from the Zelnari can handle the kind of punishment that human ships can. The humans are able to make ships that are really strong. Humans build these ships and the Zelnari vessels are no match for them. I do not know what kind of threat the Zelnari pose, he said. I know we need to figure out what the Zelnari are capable of before the Zelnari find us. We should start looking at the Zelnari closely right now. I want to know everything about the Zelnari vessel. I want reports on every single thing about the Zelnari vessel. As his team went to do their jobs, Thane stayed on the bridge looking at the command chair. He had thought that the Zelnari way of fighting was the way for 200 years. The Zelnari way is to attack. The Zelnari use a lot of firepower to overwhelm their enemies. The Zelnari like to win with not many of their own people getting hurt. The Zelnari way is clean. It works. The Zelnari were probably just lucky. Lucky that they fought against enemies who thought like them. Lucky that they never met the humans before. The humans looked at war in a way. They did not try to avoid fighting or make it end fast. They just wanted to make it through the fight. The way the humans designed things showed that they knew they would be fighting a lot. They knew they would get hurt and lose people, so they built things to withstand that. The humans expected war and expected to get damaged, so they made their things strong. The Zelnari were lucky they did not meet the humans sooner because the humans were built for war. Thane turned on his communication link to the Sovereign Light. He wanted to send an important message to High Command. The communications officer got ready. Thane said to make it the top priority and mark it as urgent. This message was for the level only. The communications officer asked Thane what the message should say. Thane thought for a moment. He said to tell High Command that they found a ship in their area. They should also tell them what they were learning about the ship's abilities. Then Thane thought about what to say next. He wanted to choose his words. He told the communications officer to say that everything they thought they knew about humans may be completely wrong. Thane went back to the screens that showed what the Valiant Dawn could do. The Valiant Dawn was their ship for training. It was a ship that they used to learn. They did not mind if something bad happened to it. The Valiant Dawn could do things that the Zelnari did not think were possible in a fight in space. On a planet that is blue, people were making more ships. These ships were bigger. These ships were better. People were going to come to the stars. They would know a lot about fighting because they had been fighting for a very long time. The Zelnari Empire had ruled unchallenged for 3,000 cycles. Thane suspected that era was about to end. The analysis would take days, perhaps weeks. But already, standing on this battered human bridge, Thane understood one fundamental truth. The humans were not like any species the Zelnari had encountered before. And that difference might cost the Empire everything. The revelation. The Commander Thane team had been looking into this for 6 days now. Every hour that passed made Commander Thane more and more worried. The Sovereign Light was still parked next to the Valiant Dawn. The research teams on the Sovereign Light were working around the clock to learn everything about the ship. What they found out was really surprising. It made them question what they thought humans could do. It even made them think about how they fought in space. The humans and the Sovereign Light and the Valiant Dawn were all part of this discovery. The Sovereign Light and the Valiant Dawn were still next to each other. Commander Thane and the humans were all waiting to see what would happen next, with the Sovereign Light and the Valiant Dawn. Thane was standing in the room where they looked at things really closely, surrounded by fancy screens showing what was inside things, plans and important information about what was going on. His top people were all there for the meeting he had asked for. The room felt really tense. Even the scientists who did not believe in the ship were now taking it seriously. "Let us start with the weapons," Thane said, pointing to the screen. "Corinne, what do you know about the weapons of the Dawn?" The person who knew about materials put up a picture of one of the main weapons of the Valiant Dawn. This thing was a railgun system. It was not very good, even the Zelnari people thought so. The Zelnari had things, but this railgun system used a kind of force to make things move really fast. The force was called force, and it made physical projectiles go very, very fast. The railgun system was used to launch these projectiles at extreme velocities. The Zelnari railgun system was not the best. It could still launch physical projectiles very fast. "Commander, this weapon system is really something," Corinne said. "At first we thought it was a simple gun that shoots things. It is old-fashioned. It works. The design is actually a lot more complicated than it looks. What makes it so special? The thing is, this railgun can shoot kinds of bullets. We found boxes that store at least 7 different kinds of projectiles. Some of these projectiles are made to go through armor. Others are made to break when they hit something, sending sharp pieces flying everywhere. Some of them even have explosives inside the projectiles. Some of these things have a stuff in them that can damage the hull of a ship." Thane looked at the kinds of ammunition in front of him. Each bullet was made for a job. The humans did not make a gun that could only do one thing. They made a system that could change and deal with problems. The humans made the ammunition and the system so that they could use them in situations. Thane thought about the ammunition types, how they could be used. The ammunition was very special because it was made to work in different ways. "But there is more," Corinne continued. "The railgun system on the ship is made up of parts that can be easily changed. The crew can swap out these parts in 30 minutes. If something goes wrong with one part, the crew can replace it without shutting down the railgun system. And look at this," Corinne said. She pointed out the power distribution network for the railgun system. The railgun system can get power from 3 generators. If 2 of these generators stop working, the railgun system can still work. Not as well as it normally does. This is an example of redundancy, Vri noted. Everything about this ship has systems. And the backup systems even have their backups. Corinne agreed about the railgun system and the ship. "Commander, you really need to take a look at what we found in the secondary weapons bay." The display changed to show us a part of the ship. Thane knew this area because it got hit badly during the fight. "We found the leftover parts of missile launch systems inside this area of the ship, the weapons bay." Corinne said that these missiles are not simple bombs. These are weapons. Each one has its system to guide it, its own sensors to find the target, and its own way of making decisions. Once you launch them, you do not need to tell them what to do. They work on their own. Find their target by themselves. Thane felt his fins get flat again. The Zelnari have missiles that can be guided. They need to be in touch with the ship that launched them all the time. If something gets in the way of this communication, the missiles are no good. "It seems that human missiles can work all by themselves," said Corinne. "They do not need anyone to tell them what to do. Human missiles are like that." Corinne said that these missiles can actually talk to each other. The missiles work together to plan their attacks. If one of the Corinne missiles gets destroyed, the other Corinne missiles change their plan. The Corinne missiles figure out what works and what does not work. They adjust their plan for the next try. She stopped for a moment. Looked at some more information. "Commander, we found out that the Valiant Dawn sent 16 of the Corinne missiles during the battle. 13 of the Corinne missiles hit what they were aiming for. This means that 81% of the Corinne missiles were successful." The room was completely quiet. The Zelnari missile systems are really good with their technology and constant guidance. They can hit their target 70% of the time when everything is perfect. These human weapons did even better when they were used in a battle. They worked all by themselves. Still managed to hit their targets. "What about the systems that are supposed to defend the ship?" Thane asked. "Are they not more like what we're used to?" Vri stepped forward to answer Thane's question. "Actually, Commander, the systems of the Valiant Dawn might be the strangest thing about the whole ship." Vri brought up some pictures of the ship's design. "The Valiant Dawn does not have any energy shields to protect it. We found out for sure that this is what they do. They do not do it the way. They use something called point defense instead." The screen showed us lots of automatic guns all over the outside of the ship. There were dozens of them. Each little gun was connected to a bunch of sensors and a main computer that helps aim at targets. The point defense system is really made up of these guns and the sensors and the main computer all working together. Vri said that these systems keep an eye on things that are coming at the ship like projectiles and energy weapons. If the system sees something, the turrets that are closest to it will start shooting at it right away. They shoot a lot of rounds very fast, which makes a kind of shield around the ship. This happens quickly, faster than a person could even think about it. The system does all of this on its own without anyone telling it what to do. Thane looked at all the turrets that were connected together. There were then 40 of them, and they covered the ship from every side. Vrick's systems were really good at keeping the ship safe. These turrets worked during the battle, right? We saw that 23 of the turrets were broken or hurt during the fight. The other 17 turrets kept working. The system fixed the problem on its own, changing where it was shooting to cover the spaces. That is really something, Thane said quietly. The turrets must use a lot of energy, right? Vri said yes. This makes me think about the power generation systems. Commander, the humans have made something really amazing. She pulled up a diagram of the ship's power core. The power core was small, it had a lot of shielding. It used power really well. This is a fusion reactor. It is different from the ones we know. The way it is designed lets it make amounts of power. The ship's power core can run on power for a long time, or it can make a lot of power when the ship is in a fight. The system is very steady. It is very hard to make it fail. Nearly impossible to make it fail? There are safety things built into every part of the ship's power core. The reactor has safety measures in place. If it starts to get too hot, the automatic controls kick in. Reduce the output right away. If that does not work, there are barriers that come down to stop anything bad from happening. If all else fails, the reactor can be thrown off the ship. Thane took his time to understand all of this. The Zelnari people are really good at finding efficient solutions to problems. They make systems that do one thing and do it well. The humans are different. They know that things can go wrong, so they plan for that. They build systems that can handle mistakes. The humans think that the reactor might fail, so they have a plan to deal with it. The reactor is an example of this. Did anybody look at what happened during the fight? Thane asked. Our people who study languages have been going over that stuff, Jorith said. He is the person in charge of communication. He showed them some files with translated text. Commander, what we found out from these files is really interesting, maybe more interesting than the technology we found. These files tell us what happened during the 5-hour fight. Thane read them slowly, and the more he read, the more he felt weird about it. The fight started when the Valiant Dawn saw 3 ships that they did not know where they came from. The ships had started shooting without any warning. The human crew on the ships had reacted away, shooting back and trying to get out of the way. What really got to Thane was the way the crew wrote about what happened. They did not sound scared or worried. The crew just did what they were trained to do, responding to the attack in a calm and professional way. The human crew was very good at their job. It showed in the way they handled the situation with the ships. 20 minutes into the fight, the Valiant Dawn got its big hit. The weapons on the side of the ship were destroyed, and 12 crew members of the Valiant Dawn were killed right away. The log entry was short and to the point. The left weapons array of the Dawn was not working. They knew 12 people were killed. They were moving power to the systems on the side of the Valiant Dawn. They were still fighting. They lost 12 people from the Dawn and just kept on fighting, Thane said in a quiet voice. The logs for the hour showed the Valiant Dawn was getting more and more damaged. The Valiant Dawn lost air in 3 parts of the ship. Another weapons system on the Valiant Dawn stopped working. The medical bay was. That is where the ship's doctor and 4 wounded crew members died. The logs just kept saying the things over and over. They said what damage was done. They said who was hurt or killed. They said what they were going to do. They said they were still ready to fight. After 3 hours, the Valiant Dawn had lost a lot of its crew. 43% of them. The captain was killed when something hit the bridge. So the second officer was in charge now. The second officer just kept fighting without stopping. The Valiant Dawn was still in the battle. Jorith looked at a log entry from then. It was written by the officer who took over after Captain Torres died. Thane read it loud. It said, Captain Torres is dead and I am in command now. The ship does not have power on decks 3 and 4. We are using backup systems to keep going. A lot of people are hurt. 50% of the crew. We have hurt 2 of the enemy ships and destroyed 1 of them. We will keep fighting until the enemy leaves, or we cannot fight anymore. The officer said we should keep pushing the enemy. We will not give in. The words hung in the air. The humans will break before the humans do. It was not something to brag about. It was just what the humans thought would happen. The humans expected their enemies to give up first, even as the humans' own ship was being torn apart around the humans. The fight was over after 4 hours when the last 2 enemy ships backed off. The Valiant Dawn was badly hurt, within half of its people still alive and a lot of things not working right, but it was still in control. The last note in the log was very short. It said the enemy ships were leaving, they were fixing the parts, and they were helping the people who were hurt. The mission was done. Thane looked at the people who worked with him. Do you understand what this means? He asked them. They fought for a time against a lot of enemy ships, Vree said slowly. The Valiant Dawn fought for 5 hours, against ships that were better and more numerous. The Valiant Dawn lost half of the people on it. They thought they won. Thane said that because they did what they were supposed to do. Their job was to keep an eye on this area. They ran into some people. They fought them. Made them leave. They thought they did a job. What about the cost? Someone asked. Any smart people would have given up after the hour. Thane and the others were told to patrol this sector. They did. They came across forces and they had to fight. They were able to drive them off. At what cost? That is the question. The people who were fighting thought they succeeded in their mission. Thane shook his head. You are wrong about that. To humans this was a thing. This was something they thought was okay. This was what humans thought war should be like. He looked at the information they got from the ship's computer. They did not have a lot of information. What they had showed some scary things about human history. Look at what humans did in the past, Thane said. The human world has never been completely peaceful. Humans have been fighting wars for long as they have been keeping track of things. We are not just talking about the fight like we have seen before, but rather fighting that never stops. It is country against country. It is one group of people and their beliefs, against another group of people and their beliefs. They have fought over land, things they need to survive, what they believe in and the way they want to be governed. Sometimes they even fight just because they are too proud to back down. I saw a display that showed what happened in the past. There were thousands and thousands of battles. Some wars went on for years. Some even lasted for decades. A lot of people died in these wars. Millions of people. The weapons they used to fight just kept getting more and more powerful until they had devices that could destroy a city with just one blast. Corinne said that they made weapons when they were still on their home planet. You can tell she really did not believe it. They built things that could destroy themselves before they even got to space. And they actually used these things, Thane said. They used them twice. Against their people. Then the room was completely quiet because everyone was so shocked. The Zelnari also made weapons a long time ago. They never actually used them. Just the idea that they could destroy each other was enough to keep everyone peaceful. Humans have actually used these kinds of weapons against each other. They still exist as a species. This is what we are dealing with, Thane said. The human species has spent its existence getting better at fighting wars. They have tried every tactic, every single strategy and every single new technology in real battles. Humans have fought against enemies who have the technology and the same determination. Humans have learned to survive in situations that would wipe out any species we know. The human species is very good at warfare. That is what we are dealing with. But now that the people from the world have reached space, they will probably be more peaceful, said one of the younger scientists. Why would the people from the world be more peaceful now? Vree asked. What is different now? Vree said. The people from the world have just brought all of their experience, all of their knowledge, and all of their ability to be violent into a bigger place. Thane pulled up the piece of information that the people had found. It was a message caught by the Valiant Dawn's communication system before the fight. The message was not complete. The people could understand what it meant. The message was about the people from the world and what the people from the other world were going to do. There were a lot of ships in this part of space. The Valiant Dawn was one of ships in a big group. Commander Joreth said in a voice, I need to show you something else. He pulled up some messages that people had sent. These messages are from the Dawn to the people in charge of the whole group of ships. The Valiant Dawn sends these messages every 8 hours just to check in. They are very normal, said Thane. The Valiant Dawn is a ship that people train on. It is no surprise they send routine messages. What is special about these messages from the Valiant Dawn? Joreth pointed out a part. Every time they send a message, it has a status update on all the ships in the training fleet. Commander, the Dawn was moving with 11 other ships. This was a practice run for people on the ships. It hit Thane away. The Valiant. 11 other ships. 12 groups of people learning how to fight in space. This was not the group of ships that humanity uses. This was not the part of their military. This was their training program. If they train like this, Vree said slowly, what do their real warships look like? No one had an answer to this. Thane looked at the data that was around the crew of the training vessel. They had the armor for protection. They had systems in place. The training vessel was also equipped with weapons. The crew of the training vessel had fought for 5 hours. By that time, half of the people on the training vessel were dead. This was a big deal considering that the training vessel was crewed by people who were still learning their trade, the novices. I need to see their classification system, he said. If this is a training ship, there must be ships. Powerful ships. Jorith worked on the computer for a few minutes before he found the information. Here, Commander, this is the human fleet classification system. The screen showed a list of ships in order. Training ships like the Dawn are at the bottom. Above them are combat ships. Then there are destroyers, cruisers, battle cruisers, carriers. At the very top, the human fleet classification system has ships called dreadnoughts. The human fleet classification system is pretty simple. The human fleet classification system has all these ships in order from to big. There were specifications for each class. A lot of details were not available. What Thane could see was good enough for him. The human dreadnought was really big. It was over 2 kilometers long. This thing could cause a lot of damage. It had firepower to destroy a small moon. The armor on the dreadnought was very thick. It was 3 times as thick as the armor on the Valiant Dawn. The human dreadnought needed a lot of people to run it. It required a crew of over 3,000 people. The record said that humanity had built 47 human dreadnoughts. Thane said 47 again. He was talking about 47 ships that are a lot bigger than the one we are on. There are also hundreds of boats and training fleets and even more boats that are not finished being built yet. Corinne found some information on the computer. Commander, I found something, Corinne said. I found the records for how ships they are making. They are building 30 big warships every time they have a cycle. It is really amazing how much they can build. Vree was surprised. Asked how they can do that. They have only been able to travel through space fast for 70 cycles, so it does not seem like they should be able to build so many ships. In 70 cycles, the humans have built a fleet of warships. Thane looked at the production records. Everything was there. They had shipyards around many planets. They had factories that only made weapons. They had training centers that taught thousands of crew members every cycle. The humans did not just happen to go into space. They made space a place for war. The humans have really made space a place for fighting with their war fleet. The people in question are very good at fighting, he said in a voice. Fighting is not something they do sometimes. It is what they do normally. They have been getting better at it for thousands of years. Now they are using this skill in space. But why are they doing this? The young scientist asked. Why do they need such an army? What are they getting ready for? Thane looked at the picture of the Dawn on the big screen. The old training ship was really beat up. It made it through 5 hours of fighting and came out on top. Maybe they are not getting ready for something in particular, he said. Maybe they just do not know how to live anyway. The room got quiet again. Outside the window, the human ship was floating around in the dark. You could see all the damage it had even from far away. The human ship was made to fight. It was made to survive. The humans built it. They are a species that only knows how to fight. Commander, what are we going to do with this information? Vree asked. Thane thought about it for a moment before he said anything. We need to finish looking at all the details. We have to write down everything we find. Then we will send all our information to High Command. Tell them what we think they should do. What do you think we should tell them? Vree asked. Thane said we should tell High Command that the Zelnari Empire should start talking to humanity away. We should treat humanity like they are our equals, not like they are people who do not know anything. We should also hope that humanity wants to be peaceful. Because if humanity decides that we are their enemies, the Zelnari Empire will be in trouble. He pointed to the screens that showed the weapons, the human armor, the human tactics, and the human fleet strength. If the humans decide we are enemies, I do not think we can stop the humans. The words felt really serious. The Zelnari thought they were the power in this area. The Zelnari thought their technology and their tactics were better than everyone. The Zelnari thought they could easily control any species, or if they had to defeat the younger species. Commander Thane did not believe those things anymore. He studied one human training ship for 6 days. What he learned changed everything he thought he knew about fighting and staying alive in space. The humans are coming. The humans are already here, moving through space in their efficient ships. These ships have people on them who can handle losses that would be too much for species. The humans are making ships every day. They are getting bigger and moving into areas. The humans and their ships are a deal. Commander Thane learned a lot about the humans and their ships. Somewhere on the small blue world, the people were teaching new generations of warriors who would work on those ships and take humanity's history of fighting to other planets. Thane turned away from the screens, walked towards the door. He still had a lot of work to do, like checking systems and making a list of more weapons. He already knew what he was going to write in his report about the ships and the warriors and humanity's history of fighting. The humans were not like any species the Zelnari had encountered. They were stronger, more resilient, more determined, and far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The age of Zelnari dominance was over. The humans had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same.